Will the LA Kings get a complete win in San Jose? We talk about that and more on this edition of Locked On LA Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Kings fans, welcome to Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast, and we are on YouTube. I'm Eddie Garcia, your host of Locked On LA Kings. I've worked in sports media for the past 30 years, 20 plus years at the Fox Sports Radio Network. I'm also co-host of the Puck Podcast, a weekly NHL review show that's been putting out content for the last 18 years, and a passionate LA Kings fan for over 30 years. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Coming up, we're going to preview tonight's Kings-Sharks game in San Jose, give you 3 keys to a Kings win. We've got some potentially big news involving a Kings big rival. But first, we talk about the lineup for the LA Kings tonight and a player getting into the lineup for the first time, and another player, is he going to be in after being benched? Well, let's get into it. The LA Kings have taken a quick trip north to face the San Jose Sharks for the second time in a week. Kings beat the Sharks in their home opener 3-2 last Thursday. Kings check in with a 5-2-2 record, which is very good, but the Kings are still looking to be more of a consistent team and play 3 solid periods of hockey. Now, they have won 4 of their last 5 games, but in back-to-back home wins over the Sharks and the Utah Hockey Club, the Kings squeaked out 3-2 wins. And yes, wins are wins and points are points, but still looking for a more consistent, complete 60-minute game from the LA Kings. Hopefully we'll see that tonight as they play game 1 of back-to-back games on back-to-back nights. Second time this season the Kings have done that. First time was in Canada on that season-opening 7-game road trip. The Kings lost the first game of back-to-back in Toronto 5-2, but then bounced back and won the second game in Montreal 4-1. With the Kings playing on back-to-back nights, Tuesday in San Jose and then Wednesday at home against Vegas, it will be backup goalie David Rittich getting the start against the Sharks, and number 1 goalie Darcy Kuemper will face Vegas on Wednesday. As for the rest of the expected lineup tonight for the LA Kings, there is one interesting addition. As far as the first line, it's still Anze Kopitar centering Adrian Kempe and Quentin Byfield. The second line, still Philip Deneau centering Trevor Moore, and Kevin Fiala is back in the lineup after being benched for the final period in the previous game against Utah. More on that coming up. The third line, Alex Turcotte centering Alex Laferriere and Warren Foegele, and the fourth line, Akil Thomas centering Tanner Jeannot and Andre Lee. Akil Thomas into the lineup for the first time this year in place of veteran Trevor Lewis. We'll talk more about Akil Thomas coming up in just a moment. As for the defensive group, same as we saw last game, Mikey Anderson and Vladislav Gavrikov, the top pairing, Joel Edmondson and Brant Clark, the second pairing, and Caleb Jones back in the lineup after his solid performance against Utah. He's with Jordan Spence making up the third pairing. As mentioned, it'll be David Rittich in net with Darcy Kuemper sitting on the bench in the first of back-to-back games. So the LA Kings asked for Rittich, making his 6th start this season. He's 3-2 on the year so far, filling in mostly when Darcy Kuemper was out injured. As for Rittich, his save percentage is .874. His goals against average is 3.09. He has made 5 starts before, obviously, Kemper's return this past Saturday, but now getting a chance again with those back-to-back games on back-to-back nights for the LA Kings. As for Kevin Fiala, we will be watching to see how this talented but sometimes temperamental forward responds to being benched against Utah. After taking his second minor penalty late in the second period, he did not play a single shift the rest of the game. Here is what Jim Hiller told friend of the show and Kings insider Zach Dooley about the situation going into tonight's game involving Kevin Fiala. Kings head coach Jim Hiller said, quote, "Kevin and I had a good conversation, wiped the slate clean, we'll move forward, and that was it," end quote. Now, sometimes coaches lie. Sometimes coaches will give you a version of the truth, but I actually think Jim Hiller in this case is being totally truthful. Now, Kevin Fiala deserved to be benched. He was given, a great opportunity, or he gave Jim Miller a great opportunity to be a man of his word, because he had said going into that game against Utah, with the Kings taking too many penalties on the year, that he was going to start taking guys' ice time away if they continued to take careless penalties. So that is what he did. He was able to send the message to the team, and specifically to Kevin Fiala. Now, Fiala, as talented as he is and with his elite skills, he has not had a great start to this season. Am I overly worried about this? No. I think when it's all said and done, Kevin Fiala will still be top 3 on the Kings in goals and points. But the fact is, he hasn't gotten off to a good start so far. He has, as he sometimes does, had brain cramps and taking bad penalties. He deserved to be benched, and now he's back in the lineup. I don't think it was necessary to bench him for an entire game. I think the message was sent, and I expect to see a smarter and motivated Kevin Fiala tonight against the San Jose Sharks. So Fiala is back, and we finally get to see Akil Thomas for the first time this season. I don't know or understand why it took so long to get Akil into the lineup. I say that this is overdue, but I'm glad to finally see it. After paying his dues in the AHL, Thomas finally got a chance to show what he could do in the NHL last season, and made a big impression with 3 goals and an assist in just 7 games. Obviously, a small sample size, and we shouldn't expect him to do that throughout a season, but certainly made an impression on a lot of Kings fans. Going into this season, it was expected he would be a regular on the 4th line. But Andre Lee did have a great training camp. Now, I had said all along, I thought Lee deserved to be on the roster. I am a bit surprised he's gotten as much playing time as he's had. Not that he's, done poorly. I think he's done okay in the role that he's been asked to do. But I am, like I said, I'm surprised that Akil Thomas hasn't played to this point. I would be in favor personally of him getting more ice time over Andre Lee. But again, I talked about it on a previous show. I'd like to see some sort of a rotation with the 4th line. Keep these guys involved. Give them all their opportunity. I'm not sure why it's taken this long. But again, like I said, I'm glad to finally see Akil Thomas getting his chance to get in the lineup. And again, Zach Dooley got to talk to Akil Thomas, and Akil said this on him finally getting into the lineup. Quote, "I have an opportunity to play tonight and work as hard as I can. I just hopefully prove yourself and just hopefully prove yourself a little bit more. Take 2. I have an opportunity to play tonight and work as hard as I can and just hopefully prove yourself a little bit more." That was Akil Thomas on him getting a chance to play tonight. And what do I expect to see from Akil Thomas? I expect to see a guy who's highly motivated to prove that he deserves to be in the lineup more. I think he'll be very motivated to make an impact on the game tonight in limited ice time, of course, on the 4th line. But yeah, just kind of like Caleb Jones got his chance to get in the lineup, and he played so well that Jim Miller said, "Yeah, we're gonna keep you in there for now." I certainly see a similar opportunity for Akil Thomas tonight against the San Jose Sharks. So Kevin Fiala back in, looking to see him get the message, accept it, be a professional, and go out and show the improvements on the ice and hopefully get his game going. And Akil Thomas getting his opportunity, hopefully getting a chance to go out there and show that he deserves to be in the lineup more than he's gotten so far. So looking for those 2 guys specifically tonight. David Riddick as well, as far as the Kings lineup going forward. Now, we are going to talk a little bit more about the San Jose Sharks specifically. Also going to give you our 3 keys for a Kings win tonight. That's next here on Locked on LA Kings, your team every day. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big win on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So even when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, and you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. And of course, FanDuel is there for you to bet on Major League Baseball's postseason. Do it while you can. The Dodgers on the verge of a World Series sweep. LA with a 3-0 lead, looking to close it out with a big win in Game 4 tonight. Dodgers, last time I checked the FanDuel app, were underdogs, getting a run and a half. I don't really know how that's possible, but the last 9 teams to be up 3-0 in the World Series went on to sweep. So join FanDuel, browse the latest betting odds of your favorite sports and teams on the Sportsbook app, and get in on the action. You can get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. And we are so lucky here in Southern California to have so many live sporting events to go to. Obviously, we had some World Series baseball. Lakers have tipped off, of course, the LA Kings as well, Clippers as well as the NBA. But it's not just about sports. We've got theater events, comedy shows, and concerts. But no matter what you enjoy, you need to do what I do and use Gametime for all your ticket needs. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks. It makes getting tickets to your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code Locked On NHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code Locked On NHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. Well, the LA Kings will play their second of 4 meetings this season against their Pacific Division rivals back up in Northern California. It's the Kings taking on the Sharks. We mentioned home opener was against San Jose. The Kings getting a 3-2 win last Thursday, jumped out to a 3-0 lead in the first period. Looked like it was going to be an easy win. Warren Fogle had a couple of the goals, but the Sharks eventually would score, cut it to a 1-goal deficit in the third period before the Kings kind of sweat out a close win. So the Sharks are, as the Kings are about to do, the Sharks are playing on back-to-back nights. They played the night before in Utah, so that could be a bit of an advantage for LA. However, San Jose did have a big third period, scored 3 goals, forced overtime, and beat the Utah Hockey Club 5-4 to get their first win of the season after an 0-7-2 start. So expect the Sharks to be excited, perhaps energized, and they just snapped that 9-game losing skid to start the season, and obviously looking to still get that first win on home ice. It's not one of our keys to a Kings win tonight, but I would say getting off to a good start, or at least not letting San Jose get off to a good start and maybe carry over some momentum that they had from that big win Monday night in Utah would be a good idea for the LA Kings. Now, the Kings have enjoyed a lot of recent success against the rebuilding San Jose Sharks. Kings have an 8-0-1 record in their last 9 games against San Jose. The last Kings regulation loss to the Sharks was in March of 2022. Checking the matchup by the numbers, Kings check in with ranked 17th in the NHL as far as goals scored per game. They're at 3.11 goals per game. San Jose, third worst in the NHL. They are averaging 2.30 goals per game. So again, the Kings are at 3.11 goals per game. San Jose at 2.30. Kings are 18th in the NHL in allowing goals per game. They're at 3.22. Sharks are second to last in the NHL, allowing 4.2 goals per game. Kings power play is 23rd in the NHL at 15.6%. The Sharks are actually 12th in the NHL on the power play at 21.9%. The Kings 24th in the NHL on the penalty kill at 74.4%. San Jose is 20th in the league at 76.7%. So an advantage for San Jose in special teams, both the power play and the penalty kill. So we'll look for that to be a potential key for the Kings tonight. But speaking of our 3 Kings keys to victory, we will start with number 1, be blue collar in front of the net, get traffic in front for screens and deflections. This is something that was emphasized coming into the season. The Kings signed some players specifically with this in mind. Now, the Kings did a great job of this in their last game against Utah. All 3 goals came with traffic in front. 2 were deflections that went off Utah players who were playing defense against the Kings players who were in front of the net. And while some of the Kings scorers are in a bit of an early slump, going to the net, getting shots on goal with traffic in front, that's slump proof. The better the Kings are at doing this part of their game, they will be able to score more consistently. And obviously that is better for the LA Kings. The second key is to get some goals from the top 6. Now, 3 straight games, the Kings have not had a single goal from any of their top 6 forwards, the top 2 lines. All the goals scored over the last 9 periods of hockey have either been from the third line, the Turcotte line, or from the defense, the blue line. So great to have a third line that's doing well. Great to have defense supplementing offense, but To win games consistently, the Kings are obviously going to need a lot more production from their top six. Hopefully, we can see that starting tonight. Now, this isn't to say that players in the top six haven't had an impact in games recently. I talked about the Kings being blue collar and going to the net. Adrian Kempe had 2 assists in the win over Utah. He was definitely a factor in that. Anjay Kopitar and Quentin Byfield were guys in front of the net trying to make things happen. But again, we do need more goal scoring from guys like Kevin Fiala and Trevor Moore and Adrian Kempe, etc. And the third key to victory for me for a win over the San Jose Sharks is, again, be at least even in the special teams battle. Kings had a power play goal and held Utah without a power play goal in their last game. In the 5 games that the Kings have either been a plus or even in the special teams battle, they are 4-0-1. In the 4 games the Kings have been a minus in the special teams, they are 1-2-1. So again, be at least even, hopefully at least a plus in the special teams battle tonight against the Sharks. And we mentioned they do have statistically the advantage in special teams against LA coming in. Second of 4 meetings on the season between the Kings and Sharks. It will start at 7 p.m. Pacific time. No local TV broadcast on this one. This is a nationally televised game on ESPN, part of an ESPN doubleheader on the network. Now, if you want to listen to the game, you can't always listen to the Kings on the ESPN 710 app. We have some potential big news involving the Kings, I would say current biggest rival. That's next here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. It is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Just go to the PrizePick app, make your picks right now, and you could be a winner. And you can get up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. PrizePicks is the best way to get in on sports, fantasy sports, in most states. That includes California. Download the PrizePick app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's the code LOCKEDONNHL on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive that $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. Well, obviously, this is Locked on LA Kings. You're coming here for the latest Kings news and reactions and discussion involving the LA Kings. But every once in a while, there's some big news involving a team in the Pacific Division where the Kings play. And if I feel like sometimes that news deserves to be passed along just to make sure you know what's going on. So, potentially big news involving the Edmonton Oilers, as we all know, the team that has eliminated the Kings the last 3 straight years in the playoffs. Well, the Oilers are not off to a good start. They're second to last in the Pacific. Now, there's still a lot of time left, and they got off to a bad start last season, and they ended up going all the way to the Stanley Cup final and losing in 7 games. So, forgive me if I'm not too panicked about what's going on in Edmonton right now. However, that said, not off to a good start, and their superstar, 3-time MVP Connor McDavid, injured last night in a loss to the Blue Jackets. On the first shift of the game for McDavid, tripped up going into the Blue Jacket zone right around the blue line, kind of crashed into the boards awkwardly, not nearly as violently as what we saw from Drew Doughty earlier this year, but he did go down awkwardly. He got up and was favoring his left leg. He did skate on his own over to the bench, but then went into the locker room and never came back. And now word that McDavid actually is leaving the Oilers road trip to go back to Edmonton to be evaluated further. Now, anytime that happens, it means one of 2 things. It's a serious injury, or the team is just being extra, extra cautious. Or I guess it could be both. But obviously the Oilers don't want to take any chances with Connor McDavid. They want him to see the team's doctors back in their facility. But clearly, if it's big enough for him to leave the road trip and go back to Edmonton, then they think it's something potentially serious and probably going to miss some time. So we'll pass along word. At last check, there was no update on his status or what the severity of the injury is. But again, Pretty serious sign that there is something wrong with Connor McDavid. And I know we're all very, very concerned and disappointed to see that Edmonton's off to a slow start, and now Connor McDavid is hurt. But we'll see what happens. Obviously, you don't wish injury on anyone, but injuries are a part of sports. I don't think anyone's crying any tears in the Pacific Division that we lost Drew Doughty. So if it happens to some key players on some teams that we're competing against, well, that's part of the sport. So we'll see what the update is on Connor McDavid. I'm not sure if this was a thing for any of you on social media, but I was watching the Monday Night Football game last night. I'm a big Steelers fan, and my wife was playing on her phone, and she said to me, "Do you know who Elliot Friedman is?" And my eyebrows were raised because I said, "Yes, I do." And if you don't know, he's a Canadian NHL reporter and probably breaks the most news around the NHL. And my wife said, "Elliot Friedman post on social media, Rob Blake on the verge of a 5-year contract extension." My reaction was, no way. Then she told me that someone had not reposted a post or a tweet from Elliot Friedman, but it was a screenshot of a post. Immediately, that's fishy. So I picked up my phone. I went to Elliot Friedman's X account and quickly saw what I suspected, that, in fact, he did not post anything about Rob Blake potentially getting a 5-year contract extension or on the verge of getting a 5-year contract extension. So I'm not sure why some people get a thrill out of trying to fool other people with fake accounts and fake posts, but that was a thing I saw on social media, but obviously not true. And not trying to toot my own horn here, but if you're on social media, if you're on X, if you're on Twitter, and you see something that involving the LA Kings that you're kind of suspicious of or surprised at, I would say look on my account, look on Russell Morgan's account, look on Austin Stanovich's account, Caro Balikian's account. We are going to retweet the big news of the day involving the Kings. One of us, I guarantee you, will see something if it's big news involving the Kings, and we will retweet it. Now, as much as we love Kings insider Zach Dooley, I don't know that he reposts a lot of things because some of those types of things are stuff that comes out from sources. And when somebody like Zach Dooley posts something, some big Kings news, he's going to wait to do it until the Kings officially announce it. So he's not going to put any kind of things out there that could be rumors, even if they are from a really reliable source. So again, if you're ever on social media and you're always looking for Kings news, if something comes out and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe this," but it's not retweeted or reposted by one of us, I would say it's a pretty good bet it's not legitimate. I did see something, speaking of GM Rob Blake. There was I like to pass along if I see any kind of national stories that are put out there involving the LA Kings. I do like to kind of talk about it. And it's kind of involving Kings GM Rob Blake, but I did see there was an article in The Athletic recently where they secretly polled 40 NHL executives and asked them to name the best NHL front offices. Now, I don't know exactly what constitutes a front office. Are they just talking about general managers, or is it kind of everything like scouting department, all that kind of stuff? I don't know. But they asked these executives, these unnamed executives, to rank the top 5 current NHL front offices. And of the 32 NHL teams, there were 9 teams that did not get a single vote, and the LA Kings were one of those 9 teams. The Kings were one of 2 teams, the New York Islanders being the other, that made the playoffs last year and did not get a single vote. The rest of the teams were non-playoff teams, Ducks, Sharks, Blackhawks, things like that. So I'm not sure exactly where the Kings would rank if you ask these same anonymous 40 executives in the NHL to rank the front offices 1 through 32. I don't know where the Kings would end up on that exactly. It would be an interesting question. I would be curious to see what these executives around the league would think about that. But I don't think it's a surprise that the Kings were not ranked in the top 5 front offices in the NHL. I would say, if you're going to ask me to guess, that they would be middle to back of the pack somewhere in the NHL. All right, for you everydayers, those of you that listen and watch Locked On LA Kings every day, coming up on tomorrow's show, we will recap, hopefully, a nice win against the Sharks in San Jose and preview Wednesday night's Kings Golden Knights matchup, which should be a big one. Thursday, obviously, we'll recap Kings Golden Knights. And then on Friday's show, it is our typical Kings fan feedback show. If you want to get an email in for the feedback show, the email address is lockedoneddie@gmail.com, EDDIE. And you can always leave your comments if you're watching on YouTube in the comments section. We appreciate that. We'd love for you to stay interactive with the show on social media, X, Twitter, Instagram. We are at Locked on LA Kings. And I do want to remind you, I will be out at the Kings Golden Knights game with my wife. It's Chargers night, and she's a Chargers season ticket holder, so some of her and her Charger friends will be at this game. And so I'm going to be there as a fan. I'm going to have my jersey on. I'm going to be able to cheer. Can't cheer in the press box as much as it's fun to go as a member of the media and do all that. But we always go to a handful of Kings games during the season as a fan, because I was a fan before I did this. I'm going to be a fan after I did this show. So I always like to go and be a fan a few times. And if anybody wants to meet up, you can reach out with an email or on social media, and I'd be happy to meet up at the Kings Golden Knights game coming up on Wednesday. I'm Eddie Garcia. Thank you for listening, watching this episode of Locked on LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Have a great rest of your day. We will talk to you tomorrow. And as always, go Kings, go.